Robert Guadarrama, now how did you find out? We all knew that Ray Tensing was going to testify, but this was the first time we heard when he was going to testify.
That's right. Prior today, we didn't really know when he would take the stand. We didn't know how many witnesses the defense was planning on calling. But today, right after court let out, the judge, Leslie Giz, came into the media room, as she has been, notifying the media what's happening the following day. Well, she informed us that tomorrow, Ray Tensing will take the stand.
And you're going to be in court for that, aren't you?
That's right. I'll be in court. I've been in court every single day so far, so I'll be in court tomorrow as well.
Okay, so let's talk about the other big surprise that happened inside the courtroom. The prosecution asked for the jury to be able to consider reckless homicide as a charge, correct?
That's right. It's a lesser charge. It carries a sentence of about 1 to 5 years, up to 5 years. And so it was brought up today before they even brought the jury in. So the jury was not present during this conversation. So let's take a look at, listen at how the prosecution brought it up in court this morning.
Charge, I would concede that the justification offense does apply to the murder. I don't think it applies to the manslaughter. I know in the prior jury trial that the court did give justification to the manslaughter. I would ask in this case that the court not give the justification offense to the manslaughter charge, and I would strongly ask the court to give reckless homicide as a lesser of murder. As the court knows, this is the second trial that we've been through this. The first jury was unable to reach a verdict, and in order to prevent a miscarriage of justice, where there could be a second hung jury, that the state feels that it's important that the court give the lesser included offense of reckless homicide.
And defense attorney Stu Matthews pushing back, disagreeing with this lesser charge. Let's listen.
We've been through another trial. The state had every opportunity to return a new indictment, including a count for reckless homicide if that was their desire. They haven't done that until the last minute here. I would suggest to the court that in order to charge this jury on reckless homicide, there must be some evidence in the record that fits the definition of reckless, which is found in section 2901.22c of the Ohio Revised Code. There's not one iota of evidence in this record that to this point in the trial that would suggest that Ray was anything other than committing an intentional act, which is what he's charged with.
And after hearing out both sides, Judge Leslie Giz notified both sides that she did do some research into case law when it comes to this exactly. Let's listen to her ruling.
That prior to all the evidence being out there, the prosecutor's office did have the statement from Mr. Tensing at the time the indictment was put forward. Am I right, Mr. Teager? I mean, I know you didn't indict it, but
right.
you had it. You guys had known.
Yeah, that was given on the
So,
21st, yes.
at that point, you could have made the decision. You know, I don't know how it's made, but at that point, I would think before all of this other external evidence was put into place, that decision could have been made, and it was not. And because I've seen the evidence and find nothing that would support reckless based on what I am hearing from other officers, his trainer, I'm unable to put it into play at this time.
All right, that's Judge Leslie Giz rejecting the prosecution's request that the jury be able to consider the lesser charge of reckless homicide. Let's get some perspective on this. Our team of legal analysts, Mike Allen, Clyde Bennett, Mark Crumbine. I'm going to start with you, Mike. What does this mean? This is a heck of a punt, isn't it?
It really is a punt, but it really comes to no surprise that any lawyer that's been watching that trial. I've said from the beginning, reckless homicide and or negligent homicide were the appropriate charges. We go through the first trial. The prosecutor got a mulligan because of the hung jury. Could have fixed the problem, as Judge Giz just pointed out, for reasons known only to Mr. Dieters. He chose not to. That's why the prosecutor had to ask.
Now, if you were Ray Tensing's defense attorney, what would be going through your mind right now?
I would be very pleased with the judge's decision not to allow reckless homicide, because that's one less way that he can't be convicted. Now they have to put all of their eggs in the purposeful murder basket along with voluntary manslaughter. There was no evidence adduced to trial for voluntary manslaughter, so now they're stuck with purposeful murder, and I think they can prove justifiable defense. So I'd be very pleased if I was Mr. Matthews with the judge's ruling on the reckless homicide request for an instruction.
Telling the jury, after all those purposeful acts that you did, that you didn't mean to kill him. I meant to stop the threat.
A riveting day in court as the man who shot and killed Sam DuBose during a traffic stop on July 19, 2015, took the stand. Good evening, I'm Rob Williams. In addition to Ray Tenzing testifying, we learned closing arguments will happen on Monday, and then the jury will get the case. Let's review what happened in court today because it was hours of drama. Ray Tenzing took the stand at about 12:30 this afternoon. He was wearing a blue suit and blue tie. He's 27 years old, 6'3", 220 pounds, single, no kids. At the start of questioning by defense attorney Stu Matthews, Tenzing testified he wanted to be a police officer at a young age. Matthews was attempting to give the jury a look at Tenzing's history. Then Matthews and Tenzing took the jury through a series of traffic stops he made prior to a stop of Sam DuBose. In each of these stops, Matthews played Tenzing's body camera video, and in each of these stops, Tenzing pulled the driver over for not having a front plate, and in each of these stops, everything ended peacefully. Then Stu Matthews had Ray Tenzing describe what happened when he pulled over Sam DuBose. For the first time, this jury heard from Tenzing.
I advised him that until I can figure out who he was, to go ahead and take off his seatbelt. And that's when I reached my left hand towards his driver's door to open it.
What was your intention at that point?
My intention was, as we saw in the previous stop, was to open the door and get his car keys right then and there and put them on the roof, and then secure him in handcuffs with the same technique inside the car and get him out of the car.
That didn't happen, right?
No, sir.
What happened?
As I reached with my left hand to open the door, and at some point during our conversation, he had put the key back in the car ignition.
Did you see him do that?
Yes, at some point, yes. I do recall that.
Saw him actually put it in the ignition?
Yes, I believe the key was in his left hand at some point and went back to his right, and he just put it back in the ignition, and that was it.
Okay, and then what happened?
So as I go to open the car door, with his left hand, that's through the open window, he reached out and he took his car door and he pulled it back shut. And at the same time he did that, he had reached up with his right hand, he turned the car on.
What did you do in response to that?
I reached in with my left hand in an attempt to grab his car keys and turn the car off.
Why did you do that?
I was so close to his window, I thought I had a very good chance to turn his car off and stop him from taking off right there. With it being 6:30 on a Sunday evening in the summertime, going into a neighborhood, I thought I could stop a pursuit right there before a pursuit happened, since those are very dangerous. And so I reached in with my left hand to try to grab his car keys, and that's when, just a fluid motion, he had turned the car on, and he immediately, with his right hand, he went down to the center console and shifted his car from park and just put it into drive extremely fast, and just mashed the accelerator to the floor at that point.
You've heard it described that you lunged into his car. What was that about? You used the term reach.
I reached in, I didn't jump off my feet, sorry. And at that point, I thought my arm was, I thought it became trapped. I thought my arm became trapped in the steering wheel somehow, because I felt my arm just felt pinned, just caught. And that's when my body kind of rotated since my arm was pulled. And after being able to review the video, I thought my arm was tangled through the top of his steering wheel, but now I know that he took his left arm and actually grabbed or pinned my arm against the steering wheel. And as that happened, he just smashed the accelerator and my body it had turned backwards and I began to fall backwards. I was facing his trunk and I had lost my balance and I was coming backwards. As he was accelerating. And I could feel his car, since the way he pulled over on the curb, that there was another car parked in front of him, but I could feel his car as he had punched the accelerator, turning into me. I could feel his car coming into me. And I'm falling backwards, and during this time I told him twice, stop, stop.
You were there with a lawyer at that time, correct?
Yes, sir.
You had seen the video before you went and gave that statement?
I'd seen the video just a couple hours before I gave my statement.
Did you
Yes.
see in the video that you did not have your hand or arm caught in the steering wheel?
We didn't break down the video. We just watched it at full speed. So no, not at the time. I still thought my arm was caught in the steering wheel.
Is that why you told the police that?
Yes, sir.
Did you and your lawyer formulate a story you were going to tell before you went and met with the CIS people?
No, sir.
Are you telling the ladies and gentlemen of the jury the truth here today, Ray?
I'm telling you what I experienced. What I experienced during those seconds, yes.
Was it your purpose to kill Sam DeBose on July 19th, 2015?
No, sir.
What was your purpose?
It was to stop the threat.
An emotional Ray Tenzing there. How did he do on the stand? And how did the defense do? Let's get grades from our team of legal analysts, Mike Allen, Clyde Bennett, Mark Crumbine. You guys, I think this is the first time this has happened, but you guys all gave the same grade. Let's start with you, an A.
Yeah, I think he did great. I mean, he had to get out what he needed to get out to establish that defense of justification that he was legally justified in doing it because he was in fear of death or great bodily harm, and I think they did it.
A.
I gave Mr. Tenzing an A. I thought he was very well prepared. He was sympathetic. He had a very good, reasonable, plausible explanation for the inconsistencies, for his misperception regarding being dragged and being entangled by the steering wheel. I thought he did a great job, so I gave him an A, and I thought his lawyer did a great job of preparing him. He was either very, very afraid that day, or he deserves an Oscar.
All right, Mark.
I gave him an A also. I thought he seemed very sincere, and he was much more emotional this trial than he was the last time, I thought. And I think that helped him seem more truthful and sincere this time.